Divine Alloy and Divine Foundation Metal. Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 109. Without any delay, start explanation. I'm a 4th rank mecha mechanic, said Shulishi. Mecha maker, 4th rank, Yi Xinglan stated. Tang Wulin and Ji Yu rejoiced when they heard the two's professions. A huge grin lit up on his face as he stared at them. You guys are just what we needed. This is fantastic. Xie, you can help Yi Xinglan and learn from her. You'll need to improve if you want to make your own battle armor in the future. Xiaoyan, you can learn from Ji Yu. Shulishi looked at him curiously. So you're a blacksmith and Ji Yu's a designer? Tang Wulin nodded. Yeah. She's a 4th rank designer. Can you really forge alloys? Yi Xinglan asked. Although he had filled her in that he was a 5th rank blacksmith, and thus capable of forging alloys, she found it hard to believe. Blacksmiths were the rarest of the 4 main professions due to how much time it took and how difficult it was to advance. As a result, the average age of blacksmiths tended to be much higher than those of other professions in the same rank. Tang Wulin smiled wryly. I understand you're skeptical, so see for yourself. He walked over to the shelf of metals, picked out 2 chunks, then brought it to the forging table. I can only forge 2 metal alloy at the moment and my success rate is 30%. The metals I'm currently able to forge are jade silver, spirit gold, and star silver. I'll need you guys to decide on an alloy soon. That way, I can start working on it. At the sound of his words, Yi Xinglan's eyes lit up. You can forge jade silver? Amen. I want jade silver then, she blurted. I'll have star silver, said Shulishi. Clearly, the two had already put much thought into their own battle armor. Great. That saves me some trouble. Also, we might all need to pitch in for the metals, Tang Wulin said. Yi Xinglan grunted her affirmation. Receiving the responses he desired, Tang Wulin broke into a smile. All right, 1 jade silver coming right up. A minute later, the 2 metals needed to create the alloy were heated to a glowing red. Tang Wulin summoned his 2 hammers into his hands. Both arms swinging at once, he began slamming down into the metal. It's been several days since he started forging alloys, yet his success rate was stuck at a measly 30%. It was a bottleneck restricting him from taking the next step. As Tang Wulin forged, his world shrank until all he could perceive was the glow of the metals. Even the weight of his hammers and the burn of his muscles faded away. Each of his strikes contained near-tangible focus as he vented his frustrations. He had been putting up a brave front in the classroom. If he hadn't been affected by the gossip and bullying, he wouldn't have made such a provoking declaration. He was still only 13 years old after all. He was determined to prove himself to his classmates as the legitimate class president. As such, to say that he was itching to battle against the 5 rankers was an understatement. In the event he met defeat by their hands, he would resign as class president. What do you think of the situation? Xinyi sat on the sofa in the teacher's lounge with one leg crossed over the other, half-smile on her lips. Wu Zhangkong's expression was stern as usual. I think it's best to treat them the way our teacher treated us. Shrek Academy offers a lot of freedom to its students and refuses to suppress their individuality. I do have one concern though. What concern? Xinyi asked. The match doesn't give Tang Wulin enough pressure. Not enough? Just how great do you think your disciple is? Xinyi stared in astonishment. She didn't view Tang Wulin's chances at victory in an optimistic light. The team of 5 rankers was just too powerful, especially with Wu Sidwa's Hell White Tiger. No one could stand against it. Ji Yu may have won against Wu Sidwa previously, but it was during a time when Wu Sidwa had been exhausted and unable to use Hell White Tiger. Wu Sidwa in peak condition was a more frightening foe than any of them could imagine. Moreover, she was supported by Luo Guixing, Xu Yuchen, Yang Yanxia, and Zheng Yiran. In their team of 5, 2 had 4 soul rings. This was one of the most powerful teams to appear in recent Shrek Academy history. Yet Wu Zhongkong didn't believe that yielded enough pressure for Tang Wulin. Let's hold back Yi Xinglan from the coming match. We'll let her fight in the match against the second grade, Wu Zhongkong said. Huh? Isn't that too mean? Shen Yi gaped. You don't understand Tang Wulin. He's resolute and patient. Even after teaching him for 3 years, I still can't see his limits. Time after time, he has accomplished the impossible. Yi Xinglan came from the inner court, so there's no need to doubt her strength. If we let her help Tang Wulin against the rankers, they'll gain an easy victory. Tang Wulin is like a spring. The more pressure on him, the harder he'll push back. In that respect, Gu and him are quite similar. Her limits are a mystery to me as well. As for Xie Xie and Xu Xiaoyan, they've finally realized how far behind they are after coming here, and are working hard to catch up. What they need now is confidence. The 4 of them plus Xu Lixi makes exactly 5. It's suitable to have a 5-on-5 battle. Shen Yi remained silent. Suitable, huh? A humming radiance shot up, glittering like jade. Yi Xinglan stood rooted in place, utterly shocked. She hadn't thought much of Tang Wulin beforehand. Her memory of him amounted to a stingy kid, a boy who ran off and left behind an outrageous dinner bill for her and Xu Lixi. She still held a grudge for that. That said, Yi Xinglan also remembered how unyielding he had been in the Sky Sea Alliance tournament match afterward. Yet what Tang Wulin had just accomplished shattered her previous view of him. He succeeded at forging an alloy. There were few 5th-rank blacksmiths who could forge them due to their lack of spiritual power. Most only started learning how to after becoming a 6th-rank blacksmith skilled at spirit refining. So she was absolutely shocked. From the moment he landed the first strike of his hammer to the last resounding bang, she and Xu Lixi had been drawn in by his forging tempo, utterly mesmerized. It was their first time witnessing such a sight. In their eyes, it was as though Tang Wulin and the metal had become one. His hammers rose and fell nimbly yet forcefully. His movements flowed like river water. I'm going to appraise its harmony rate now. With that said, Tang Wulin took out a small device he had borrowed from the Shrek Blacksmith Association and placed it on the jade silver. Although he had technically borrowed it, with a wave of Feng Wuyu's hand, that borrowing became long-term. It was practically his now. A moment later, a number appeared on the screen that left him dumbstruck. Peering over his shoulder at it, Gu was similarly left speechless. Tang Wulin's mouth quivered for a second before he let out a long sigh. Is it low? It looks like you succeeded though. Even a harmony rate in the 60s is good, Xu Lixi said as he approached the two. But when he saw the number displayed on the screen, he inhaled sharply. N95. No way. Without a doubt, the number flashing brightly was 95. It was Tang Wulin's greatest piece yet. Yi Xinglan rushed over to see for herself. She could hardly believe her eyes when she saw the number. Why did you sigh when the harmony rate is so high? Yi Xinglan asked. Tang Wulin smiled bitterly. I sigh because I can't use it. It would have been better if I chose to forge star silver instead. This piece of jade silver is enough for 1 battle armor part. It's mine. Yi Xinglan snatched it up and stored it into her storage ring. Well, aren't you shameless? Gu groaned. Ignoring Gu's comment, Yi Xinglan said to Tang Wulin, I'll pay you for it later. Okay, the corners of Tang Wulin's mouth twitched. He was heartbroken to part with a 95% harmony rate piece. 7 more metals could be added to it in the future to make it a 9-metal alloy. Although at first glance there didn't seem to be much of a difference between 95% and 91%, among blacksmiths, a 95% alloy was called the foundation of divine alloy. 2 metal alloys were known as basic alloys, 3 metal ones were quality alloys, 4 metal was top quality, and 5 metal was holy. But alloys with 5 or more metals were extremely rare, their value comparable with that of soul-refined metal. The greatest alloy in recorded history thus far was an 8-metal alloy. The more metals added, the harder it was to succeed. A 9-metal alloy had yet to be created, though many had tried, including the all 7 of the divine blacksmiths to have appeared in history. To forge a 9-metal alloy was to forge a divine alloy. Such a metal could allow limit duos to progress to the next level of strength. But that next level wasn't something to scoff at. That level was godhood. Considering that an alloy with a 95% harmony rate opened a path to godhood, its value was clearly astronomical. The possibility of becoming a divine alloy, no matter how minuscule, was enough to make it one of the most expensive metals in the world. Rarely would blacksmiths sell such a metal. Instead, they would keep it for themselves. Forging alloys and forging regular metals was different. Luck was an important factor. Even a divine blacksmith couldn't guarantee to forge an alloy with a harmony rate 95% or higher. The average harmony rate of their products were just higher. Unknown to Tang Wulin, he had broken yet another record. In the history of blacksmithing, never before had a blacksmith below the 6th rank forge an alloy with 95% harmony rate. Tang Wulin had achieved the impossible as a 5th-rank blacksmith and set a new bar. Suddenly, Yi Xinglan spoke up. "Don't say I'm taking advantage of you. I'm actually a 5th-rank maker." A 5th-rank maker? Everyone was stunned, unable to form words. Among the 4 professions, designers progressed the fastest since the profession mainly relied on spiritual power and perception. As long as a designer was sufficient in those 2 aspects, they would reach the 3rd rank. In comparison, it was much harder for makers to advance. It required constant and repetitive practice, and a strong perception was essential as well. After all, without being able to understand the design, the mecha or battle armor they created would only ever be subpar. Yi Xinglan was just 13 years old, nearing 14. She was the same age as the rest of them. Being a 5th-rank maker at her age made her a genius. Xie Xie and Xu Xiaoyuan exchanged a glance, shame coloring their cheeks red. The 2 of them were the lowest-ranking professionals in their group. "Don't forget, Lishi is a 4th-rank mechanic," Yi Xinglan said. Tang Wulin nodded enthusiastically. "This is great. Gu is in charge of the designs, so tell her any specifications you have for your armor. We're going to make our battle armors one part at a time, starting from the right hand. I'll work hard to forge the alloys, but don't expect another 95% alloy. I will guarantee we'll use alloys of at least 90% though." A single successful piece of alloy was enough for one-hand armor. After that, the most pressing concern was whether the metal could be successfully transformed into hand armor. Although failure wouldn't turn the metal into scrap, its quality would decline. "All right." Yi Xinglan nodded. Contrary to her calm expression, however, her heart was quite disturbed. A 5th-rank maker their age was rare, but a 13-year-old 5th-rank blacksmith was an impossibility. There was no one within all of Shrek Academy whose blacksmithing talent could compare with Tang Wulin's. She would be able to grow even faster working together with a genius blacksmith like Tang Wulin. Upon this realization, her ill feelings toward him dissipated. Shrek Academy's policies seemed to grant much freedom, but she knew that this was to put even more pressure on the students. Yi Xinglan and Xu Lishi had moved to the outer court to gain experience and face greater pressure to improve. If they didn't complete enough achievement, then they couldn't return to the inner court. They had to make a set of battle armor for themselves to do so, and there was no one better to help them than a blacksmith capable of forging alloys. After directing Yi Xinglan and Xu Lishi to Gu, Tang Wulin continued to forge. With Yu Jingyu providing the materials, he was going to take advantage of this and save the high harmony rate alloys for himself and his companions, while selling the agreed pieces to Yu Jingyu. As for the low harmony rate ones, he would just sell them. Meanwhile, Gu discussed the designs for their armors with everyone else. The entire workshop buzzed with energy as everyone rushed to complete their part in the plan. Tang Wulin's heart gradually calmed as he continued to forge, each reverberating strike of his hammer venting his frustrations at being suppressed by the rankers. Now, more than ever, did he understand that the only way to obtain the respect and acknowledgement of others was through strength. Everything else would follow after obtaining power. He still remembered what his father had told him. In this world, the only one he could rely on and trust was himself. Relying on others would only lead to failure. Only by striving relentlessly and depending on himself could his talent blossom and let him stand tall and proudly before his peers. His pride pushed him to greater heights. His forging improved, and his alloy success rate was higher than ever. He forged into the night, until he finally collapsed in exhaustion. He had succeeded in forging 8 pieces of spirit alloy. Among them, one was a spirit gold with a 93% harmony rate. With that, GUU's metal was finished. The remaining 7 ranged from 70 to 80% harmony rate, which was fairly good. Tang Wulin collected them into his storage ring to set them aside for the future. He still needed to obtain the spirit items necessary to break the 4th Golden Dragon King seal, and these alloys would help. Huh? Tang Wulin stared at Shen Yi in shock, mouth gaping. Why? Teacher Shen, why can't Yi Xinglan participate in the class representative selection tournament? Tang Wulin asked. Tang Wulin's mind went blank the moment Shen Yi had told him Yi Xinglan couldn't participate in the class representative selection tournament, his plans crumbling apart. He had felt pressured to face the 5 rankers, but with Yi Xinglan's help, especially after 3 years of growth, he had been confident of their victory. Although she did not have 4 soul rings yet, her combat power was on par, if not better. Her skillful techniques were still etched into his memory. His original plan was to have GUU, Yi Xinglan, and himself be the main attack force of their team. That way, they would have a chance against Wuxiduo's Hell White Tiger. But without Yi Xinglan, their chances of victory dropped to next to 0. The disparity between his team and the 5 rankers was too great. Don't ask me why. There is no reason. But your mecha group reassignment has been approved. The condition, of course, is that Yi Xinglan cannot participate in the tournament. Now go back to prepare. You don't have much time. Throughout the rest of his classes, Tang Wulin was lost in a daze with his brow furrowed. The atmosphere in the classroom was charged the moment he stepped in, and the majority of his classmates took care to maintain a distance from his group. He and his friends were being shunned by everyone. Even his new companions, Yi Xinglan and Xu Lixi, were being treated the same way. The addition of Yi Xinglan's combat strength and Xu Lixi's buns had given Tang Wulin confidence in their victory. But now Yi Xinglan was no longer allowed to participate. Their odds for victory were laughable without her strength. His mind occupied by this problem, Tang Wulin didn't pay attention in class for the first time since coming to Shrek Academy. Good luck in the tournament, class president. Well, you don't have to worry about it too much. Even if you resign from being the class president, you can still be the blacksmith representative, Luo Guixing said as he approached Tang Wulin after class. Young Mianxia followed closely behind Luo Guixing and looked at Tang Wulin with sincere eyes. You're the most suitable person to be the blacksmith representative. Please don't force yourself. What do you mean force himself? He's just overestimating himself. Zheng Erang cut in as she walked by, not even bothering to look back as she left. Wu Xidua passed Tang Wulin without speaking a word. Xu Yucheng followed, staring at Tang Wulin with narrowed eyes. What the hell are you looking at? Beat it. Gu said, shooting up from her seat. Xu Yucheng glanced at her coldly, then turned back to Tang Wulin. He raised his hand, pointed his thumb up, then turned it down. You? Gu was about to explode, but Tang Wulin grabbed her arm. Tang Wulin looked straight into Xu Yucheng's arrogant gaze. We'll settle things on the stage. After the 5 rankers left, half of the class stood up and left as well. Xie Xie hung his head, his fists clenched tightly. Stealing his resolve, he stood up and exited the classroom. Xu Xiaoyan looked at Tang Wulin anxiously, who returned her gaze with reassuring steadiness before standing up as well and leading his friends out. Tang Wulin had already told Yi Xinglan about the restriction placed on her. She watched the entire confrontation with cold detachment from her seat in the back. Big Sis Xinglan, just what is the academy thinking? Xu Lixi asked from beside her. She flicked her gaze to him. You still don't get it? The administration thinks very highly of Tang Wulin. Huh? And this is how they are showing it? Xu Lixi was dumbstruck. Yes. They view him as very important, Yi Xinglan answered without hesitation. She got up from her seat and followed Tang Wulin out. Thoughts looped around endlessly in Tang Wulin's mind the entire day, but in the end they all focused on one thing: just how can we win? The coming tournament would be a great challenge for him. If he didn't emerge victorious, then his status among his classmates would plummet and his reputation dragged through mud. With all eyes watching him, there was no backing down now. Xie rushed back to the working student dormitory, but he wasn't returning to his room. Instead, he headed straight for Yuan and Yehue's room and banged on the door with all his strength. "What is it?" Yuan and Yehue opened the door, but upon seeing it was Xie, her expression instantly chilled and her eyes reflected wariness. Xie's eyes were red, his nails digging into his palms as his entire body trembled from an unknown emotion. Upon seeing Yuan and Yehue, he stepped forward and bowed deeply. "Please help me." Yuan and Yehue took a step back, still leery. "Explain the situation to me first." Xie sucked in a deep breath. Determination shone in his eyes as he resolutely said, "Please spar with me. I want to improve myself." Surprised, Yuan and Yehue asked, "What's got you so worked up?" Xie didn't answer. He bowed to her once more. "I beg of you, help me. Please." Yuan and Yehue raised an eyebrow and looked him up and down. Xie was clearly like a volcano, about to erupt at any given moment. "All right. Fine." She nodded. Xie raised his head, stunned. Then he let out a long breath of relief. "Thank you. Let's spar then. I'll pay for all of the costs." "Of course you are," snorted Yuan and Yehue. Tang Wulin was deep in contemplation while sitting on the forging table in his workshop when Yi Xinglan walked over. "Tang Wulin, do you feel discouraged now?" He raised his head. Yi Xinglan started with surprise. Instead of looking defeated, Tang Wulin's gaze held immeasurable willpower and determination. He shook his head. "No. This is just another obstacle for me to surpass. When my martial soul awakened, it was blue-silver grass, and I only had an innate soul power of rank 3. My family is utterly normal and didn't have money to support my cultivation. I began blacksmithing at 6 to earn enough money for a 10-year spirit soul, but then the Spirit Pagoda staff member told me that I could only afford the random spirit soul draw. It was from that draw that I got Gold Song. Do you know what the staff member told me back then? He said Gold Song is a defective spirit soul. No one had any hope for me. Even my parents tried to dissuade me from walking the path of a soul master. They wanted me to focus on blacksmithing instead. I possess innate divine strength, so they thought being an ordinary blacksmith suited me." A faint smile formed on his lips and he jumped off the forging table. "I overcame all of it." He didn't need to say anything more. Everyone understood his meaning. He started out as a mediocre person. Yet now, through his tenacity and hard efforts, he became the class president of Shrek Academy's first-grade class. The coming tournament may pose a great challenge to him, but it was nothing in comparison with his martial soul being blue-silver grass, nothing compared to having a defective first spirit soul. He always forged forward, step by step, and this time would be no different. "All right. I'll help you then. GUU has already finished the design for your hand armor. I need a piece of star silver to make it," Yi Xinglan said. Tang Wulin's eyes lit up. "Star silver? Will you make it in time?" The match between the first and second grade was set to take place in a week, and the representative selection tournament in 3 days' time. With only 3 days, there was no telling whether she would succeed in making a battle armor part. Although spirit alloys were capable of maximizing the amplification effects of battle armor and opened a path for improving one-word armor in the future, the difficulty of crafting with it also increased proportionally. "I'll give it a shot," answered Yi Xinglan. "I took your divine foundation metal, so I have to return the favor." "Okay, I'll begin forging star silver," said Tang Wulin. At that moment, a beeping noise sounded in the workshop. Tang Wulin took out his communicator to check who was calling him. Upon seeing the name on the screen, he immediately picked up the call. "Teacher?" Feng Wuyu's deep voice was transmitted through the line. Come see me. His words were short and concise. I'll head over right away. Tang Wulin turned to his companions. Elder Feng just called for me. I'll see what he wants, then come back right away. He left after saying this. Reaching Feng Wuyu's office, Tang Wulin knocked once then entered. He lowered his head in respect. Teacher? I heard what happened in your class. Sounds like the class president isn't that great. Feng Wuyu said. Amen. That's right. I'm not qualified for the position. Tang Wulin smiled bitterly. He didn't bother explaining himself. With the situation coming to a head like this, explanations were useless. He had to settle the problem with action. Feng Wuyu snorted. Are you ready for the tournament? Yes, Tang Wulin answered. Feng Wuyu was taken aback, his eyes narrowing as he stared at Tang Wulin. I heard your opponents are quite something. Are you confident? Tang Wulin's eyes shined with courage. I have to be even if I'm not. His conviction was unshakable. That's good then. You have to face hardship head-on. You'll grow a lot from this ordeal. Here, take this. Tang Wulin hurriedly reached out and caught the object Feng Wuyu tossed to him. It was a brilliant silver metal, specks of gold accenting its silver aura. Star silver, he blurted out. Tang Wulin looked at Feng Wuyu. Teacher? Even without testing it, Tang Wulin could tell that it was an extremely high-quality piece. Its harmony rate was 90% at the very least. It's 99%. It's a masterpiece from my early years. There's no point just leaving it lying around, so I'm giving it to you. Tang Wulin was stunned. Warmth filled his heart. He had always thought Feng Wuyu was a harsh teacher and had never expected the old man to show such care and concern for him. Teacher, I can't accept this. Tang Wulin walked forward and placed the star silver on Feng Wuyu's desk. Feng Wuyu smiled. Where'd all your greed go, kid? I thought you would just accept it right away instead of acting so politely. Tang Wulin scratched his head in embarrassment. I have my own pride too. What pride? Enough of that. Just accept it. Don't let it go to waste. Feng Wuyu grinned at him. A long sigh escaped Tang Wulin, and he shook his head. Teacher, you're right that I'm greedy. But that's because I grew up poor. Even so, I can't accept this. It's not that I'm embarrassed to accept it. I would never feel embarrassed with you. But it's because I'm a blacksmith. Feng Wuyu was dumbstruck, but he quickly understood what Tang Wulin meant and nodded. Excellent. Your heart isn't swayed so easily. I'm convinced that you really are confident now. He waved his hand and put the star silver back into his storage ring. In order to craft the best battle armor, one had to be involved in the crafting process regardless of whether it was as the blacksmith, designer, maker, or mechanic. Feng Wuyu understood the meaning behind Tang Wulin's words. He wanted to create the greatest battle armor possible for himself, so he had to be the one to forge the metal with his own hands. I was just about to try to forge star silver when you called, teacher. The design for my one-word battle armor's right gauntlet is completed, so now I just need a high-quality piece of star silver to forge it. It would be of great help to me if you had any good star iron I could use. I won't ask for much. Just as much star iron as that piece of star silver you wanted to give me would be greatly appreciated, Tang Wulin said, a smile forming on his lips. Get out of here. Feng Wuyu barely restrained the impulse to kick Tang Wulin out of the room. He had doled out a few words of praise, yet his disciple wasn't satisfied with that. Tang Wulin laughed. I know you have it, don't you? I'm willing to bet there aren't many blacksmiths in the entire world with a greater stash than you. Is there really a need to be stingy with me? Just hand it over, please. Who's being stingy here? Feng Wuyu's anger dissipated in the face of Tang Wulin's radiant smile. He took out some star iron and placed it on his desk. I don't have any more, take it and go. Before I get angry. Feng Wuyu waved his hand in dismissal. Tang Wulin giggled at his teacher's resignation. When are you going to teach me how to forge 3 metal alloys? Feng Wuyu eyed him up and down. You haven't even mastered walking, and now you want to learn how to run. Wait until you can forge 10 different 2-metal alloys, spirit refine consistently, and forge a divine foundation metal. Then we'll talk about 3-metal alloys. Oh. I'm still far from that. Tang Wulin sighed, his head drooping. He made for the door, muttering to himself, I still have 2 of the 3 goals to complete. It's going to take me at least a year to do the other 2. Hold on a minute. Feng Wuyu shouted when he heard what Tang Wulin muttered. Huh? Is there something else? Tang Wulin looked back. You said you only have 2 goals left? Which one did you complete? Feng Wuyu stared at Tang Wulin wide-eyed. Impossible. Asking him to meet those 3 goals was harsh. Even I couldn't complete all of them until I reached the 6th rank. Feng Wuyu set those 3 requirements in an effort to put more pressure on Tang Wulin. Of the 3, learning to forge 10 different 2-metal alloys and becoming skilled at spirit refining were fairly easy to master and would come naturally with time. Tang Wulin had already succeeded once at spirit refining, but he hadn't practiced that since his first success. As far as the alloys went, he'd been practicing for a few days now and could forge a couple of them. Yet he still muttered about completing one of the 3 requirements. Feng Wuyu never even considered the possibility that Tang Wulin had forged a divine foundation metal. A 6th-rank blacksmith only had a sliver of a chance to succeed, and even a saint blacksmith had to rely more on luck than skill to forge a 2-metal divine foundation alloy. A fledgling 5th-rank blacksmith succeeding was unheard of. Tang Wulin smirked, but remained silent. Feng Wuyu threw a bit of iron at Tang Wulin's head. What are you smiling for? Tell me before I beat your ass. Which one did you finish? Did you sneak off to Mu Chen to learn how to forge more alloys? Or did you secretly practice spirit refining? There's no way you did any of that with what little time you have. Why couldn't I have forged a divine foundation metal? Tang Wulin's words dripped with condescension. Feng Wuyu rolled his eyes and snorted. In your dreams maybe. But this is reality. Wake up and tell me. Or did that not hurt? Tang Wulin looked wronged. Of course it hurt. How about we make a bet? If I managed to forge a divine foundation metal. Feng Wuyu glared at him. Still talking about divine foundation metals? Do you want another bump on your head? Teacher, you shouldn't bully kids. There's no way I can fight back against you. How about this? If I win the bet, you pay me 20,000 contribution points. I was penalized for the fight last time and I need to clear some debts. But the thing is, cultivating and blacksmithing is taking up all my time so I can't earn more points. What if the academy expels me because I don't pay the fine? Feng Wuyu fought down his laughter at his disciples overacting, and forced his face into a serious expression. Save it. You've successfully forged more than 1 alloy. 20,000 points is nothing if you sell some off. Besides, you're my disciple. Do you really think the academy would dare expel you? If you're too scared to bet with me, then I'll just go to Grand Teacher. Tang Wulin turned around to leave. Now you just hold on a minute. Who said I'm too scared? You little brat, do you actually think that senile old fool Shuasha has more guts than me? Fine. I accept your bet. Let's see if you really can forge a divine foundation metal. But first things first, what do I get if I win? Humph. You dare question me? Let's see what you can do. Tang Wulin's smile had all the character of a predator about to pounce. Teacher, I'll do anything you want if you win. Feng Wuyu thought about it for a moment before saying, all right. If I win, I get everything you forge in the next 3 months. That was an enormous sum. Even with Tang Wulin's current success rate, the number of alloys he could forge in 3 months clearly exceeded 20,000 contribution points. Deal. Tang Wulin knew his victory was assured. The stakes didn't matter. The sheer confidence that Tang Wulin displayed started to unnerve Feng Wuyu. Kid, did you really forge a divine foundation metal? Follow. Tang Wulin smiled proudly and he turned to leave. Feng Wuyu followed Tang Wulin back to his workshop. Doubt, curiosity, and excitement intermingled and growing with every step. Inside the workshop, Ji Yuyu, Xu Lixi, Yi Xinglan, and Xu Xiaoyong were in the middle of discussing their battle armor designs. When they saw Feng Wuyu walk in behind Tang Wulin, they shot up to their feet. Where is it? Feng Wu scanned the workshop. Tang Wulin looked to Yi Xinglan. Could you let Elder Feng see the jade silver? He can help appraise it. Yi Xinglan looked at him, then at Feng Wuyu. A second later, she took out the jade silver from her storage ring and presented it to Feng Wuyu. The moment Feng Wuyu saw it, his pupils contracted and his hand flew out to snatch it. He brought it close to his face for inspection. He stared at the gentle jade silver glow of the metal for a long time, before finally handing it back. He turned to Tang Wulin. You really did forge a divine foundation metal. Without another word, he turned around and left. From beginning to end, his face showed no emotion. Teacher, you see, Tang Wulin hastened to follow. Feng Wuyu glanced at him. I'll send you the points. Then he shoved the door of the workshop open and left, letting it slam shut behind him. After the door shut behind Feng Wuyu, Tang Wulin turned to his companions and made a victory sign with his hand. What's going on? Ji Yuyu asked. Tang Wulin smiled mischievously. Nothing. I just made a bet with him. A small bet. Nothing to worry about. The moment Feng Wuyu stepped out of Tang Wulin's workshop, his face contorted in annoyance. That kid really got me. Then his features softened into a smile of satisfaction. But it's good that he knows how to pull one over on people. He shook his head and chuckled. Kid, you really gave me a nice surprise. 3 days later in the first grade's classroom, Shenyi announced from behind the lectern, in order to fully examine your combat abilities, Teacher Wu and I have decided for our selection tournament to be decided via real combat. Now, let's depart. The students stared blankly at her. Shouldn't we be fighting in a virtual space? We could get injured in live combat. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.